Hey everybody, welcome to the shop, and this is going to be the first part of I don't know how many videos, but what we're going to do is I'm going to document locomotive being taken apart, stripped, repainted, put back together. We're going to wire it up with the Revolution. Hopefully we'll wire it up with a Phoenix as well, so you can see how those two go together, and we're going to put the whole series together as a playlist on YouTube, so you can jump to a certain video, whatever you're interested in. So today, the first part is, well, taking the locomotive apart, stripping it down. The first thing I like to do is get some things out that I'm going to need. In this case, I've got a little screwdriver. I really like this one. I like the little, here I can grip it really well. I've also got another, this is another mini screwdriver. My favorite tool for taking off handrails is this. It's actually an electronics tool that I got when I was replacing my iPhone screen. And it's very narrow, flat tip. It's got a really nice, strong grip on it. And so, for example, you know, I can just slide it right in, just a simple twist of it, and the handrails just pop right up. And I'm not hurting, I'm not gouging the paint, I'm not scratching anything. I'm not really worried about that because it's about to get stripped, but I really don't want to gouge the plastic. A scratch could do that. And then right here again, just lift, and these come right up, and then I can just slide it right in. Boom. Also, what I like to do is I like to have one of these large, I forget what the name of them from IKEA is, but there are these clear tubs. I use a dry erase marker. This is going to be a Southern GP9, surprise. But what I like to do is I can take this tub, and then as you can see, the GP9, you know, most of the handrails just lay nice and flat. So I'll set this off to the side, and as I take parts off, I just lay them right in the tub. I can put my lid on it, put it on the shelf, keeps the dust out of everything. And then as I'm working on pieces and parts, I can just, you know, take them out, put them right back in so I don't lose them. All the screws will go in here. And you know, I've got right now 3 or 4 locomotive projects underway, and each of them has its own tub, so nothing gets mixed together, everything gets kept separate, and whatnot. And so, and then if I do need something, if I need to order something, what I like to do is typically I'll just take my dry erase marker and I'll write, you know, something on here. Oh, need, you know, a handrail, or need this, whatever, and that'll remind me, oh, I need to go look for it in my parts bin, or I need to order it. So that's a little organization trick that I like to do, and that just sits over here. Something else we'll go through is I will be taking the motor blocks apart so you can see how they come apart and what to look for on the gears. So let's go ahead and we'll finish this side of the handrails. And again, all I'm doing is just sliding it in and twisting. I'm really not doing much with the handrail itself because I don't want to, and then it just comes right out. I jumped ahead a little bit. Typically the first thing I like to do is take the dynamic hood off, take these. This one, it's here, hold on. I have a pickle jar full of 91% alcohol. So small parts, you know, like this, I will go ahead and, you know, open up my pickle jar and then just drop it in. So all the dynamic brakes, fans will get dipped, but I put those in a pickle jar so I don't lose them because my big tub is really large. The next thing, we'll go ahead and we'll take the horns off, and sometimes these come right out, sometimes they don't. You don't know. I got this locomotive at auction, and yet you can see someone broke it and glued it. So, you know, not that big of a surprise because they do break off so easily. And then that horn comes off, then somebody put a horn there. Interesting. I didn't notice that till just now. And then, you know, we'll take this one, and sometimes you just, not a biggie. So we've got this shell, and we got the stuff off the top. I've got the little vents. These are the metal ones, so you just lift them up, put them in the tub, and we'll go ahead and this we can go ahead and put in the dip, but I'll wait just a minute. This side was missing handrails. I've already got some here, so I'm not all that really worried about it. It was missing the front handrails. I picked this locomotive off auction. I think it was $120. So, you know, it's got a couple of things missing, but overall it's in really good shape. And we will, now the handrails on the end, I've switched to this because it's a little bit longer. I can reach in, and all I'm doing is just twisting and, you know, just pushing the little pin out. And then this one I usually like to do at an angle, and then just pops right out very carefully. And then just trying to use my screwdriver like a wedge, and interesting, sometimes when you get these used units from auction, somebody, you know, they will put glue on the stanchions, and, you know, I've done it, and you just need to work slowly and, you know, recognize if there is glue. You know, sometimes I'll just grab the little piece and just wiggle it, and it pops right out. So I've got all of that off that end. This end didn't have anything. The next thing we'll do, take the couplers off. While we've got it upside down, it's got this little step piece. I like to work from the underside and just wiggle it. This side was already broken, but if I can salvage the pin, nope, it broke, which is fine. These were already double glued in. You know, not a big deal. I'm gonna grab a screwdriver, and interesting, you know, this got a USA coupler on one end and a hook and loop on the other. So, now if you notice on this locomotive, it's got traction tires here in the middle. If you know me, I'm not a fan of those. Those will be coming off, and we'll be replacing those with another axle, a brand new axle with the non-traction tire. The traction tires do exactly what they say. They're more traction, but this causes more force on the gear here than here, and so you get a disproportional amount of torque on this end, which causes issues for your motor. And 9 times out of 10, you know, the weak spot is going to be the gear, and so either the gear will crack, which is typical, or it will strip. I've been told by numerous people that are plastic people, into plastics, that, you know, the gears, when the metal part is pressed onto the plastic gear, the plastic is still hot, it hasn't cooled and cured yet, and when they press these on, you know, it will cause the gear to crack right at the factory. So, you know, we'll find out what these are, you know, looking like once we open them up. Now, you know, this is one from another locomotive, and it's actually got a cracked gear. I don't know if you can if it will zoom in, but there's a crack right here, and so I can just twist it right around really easy, and we don't want that for our tractive effort purposes. I've got new gears, so actually, you know, it's pretty easy to take these apart because they're cracked on both ends. There's a crack on this side and a crack over here. You know, there's some articles online about putting a brass bushing over it. You know, once it's cracked, I don't know truly how effective it is. I would love to be able to study that in a analytical way, because once it's cracked, you know, chances are this has been spinning, and I'm not feeling any teeth. So this tells me, you know, this one has been spinning and it's worn out, and so I just curious, you know, how well, you know, if you compress it and then you push it, you know, can you remake the teeth? I don't know. And so we'll explore that a little bit later when we get into the motor blocks. But so the next part is the screws for the shell. You cannot take the shell off unless you take the handrails off. Oh, and this one's broken, and that's okay. You know, actually the funny part is, you know, right here at 2 feet away, I've got another one that's I was going to put on another locomotive, so I can probably cut this one and change it and glue it and use this one on this one. So we'll put the one that's got the good screw holes in the dip, and boom. So once you get the handrails off, our next step is going to be the fuel tank. You can't take the shell off until you get the fuel tank off, because there's screw holes underneath here. And sometimes you might have a speaker in here, especially if it's used. You might have a speaker with a wire going in, and you're going to want to deal with that. I can look through the holes here. There's no speaker, so I know I'm good. So we're going to go ahead and remove that screw, remove this screw, and I've tried to use my magnetic screwdriver whenever possible. This just slides right out. This is going to go over here off to my left. It's not going to go in my tub because it's going to get dipped. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to show you a trick. I'm going to put, well, I thought I was going to do it, but I'm going to put some of these pink straws here, so you can see where the screw holes are for the shell. Now the nice thing, USA trains, I'm not going to say they keep their pattern every time, but it's really close. So on a GP38 or whatnot, you're gonna, you know, they like to do 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. And so, you know, once you've taken one apart, you'll notice a lot of similarities between other locomotives. So we've got these 2 screws here. Now I can't put them down in the holes, but there is a screw here for the battery box area. There's another screw on this side for the battery box area. As I rotate the block around, you're going to notice there's another screw over here, bottom left of your screen. Now there's also, and this is one that a lot of people will miss, there's a screw hole, and it's kind of hard to see. Let me slide. If you rotate, you're going to notice there, so we'll slide one down in there. And then I'm going to have to rotate the block around, because guess what? There's another hole on the opposite side. So I'm using these straws with the bending neck, and because they will slide down in the hole, and then we can just bend it over. So we've got, you know, 2, 2, and 2, and guess what? Back at this end, we work back at this end. We've still got a screw here and a screw hole over here. These are relatively deep. I'm gonna say 3/4 to an inch deep, which is why I like to use a little bit longer screwdriver. this was part of a set from Harbor Freight. It came with a small, this was the medium, and this was the large one. I love all three of these. Actually, I've almost worn them out because they're from Harbor Freight. Yeah, so I probably need at some point to go back and get a new set because I've just worn the tips down because I bought these several years ago. But the best, probably $1.99 I spent. Because of the length, you can work down through some of these small holes down into and grab it. And so we're going to start pulling the screws out. And now here again, this one's not magnetic, which is yeah, not the greatest thing in the world, but and sometimes they just won't come out because of the plastic, and that's fine. When we open up the shell, we can push the screws out from the other side. I'm actually trying to feel the screw head and the tip of the screwdriver and let them drop in together, and then I can, yeah, that one's not going to come out. There's also a screw right here, and there's another one on the opposite side. And this is why I love this long screwdriver if you're trying to get these shells off, because I can get down through the motor block. And then same thing on the other side, I can and I'm just doing one rotation at a time. I'm not trying to go quickly here. I will say this, when we get to the motor blocks in the second part, probably, I don't know, that might be a third part, you know, we'll talk about the sliders. I take the sliders off, so we're going to take these out, and we're going to remove these screws. Most of the time I found these screws don't want to come out because they've got a really nice long part to reside in. And you'll see when we take the shell off, there's this long tab that goes up into the shell, and so there's a good space for the screw just to sit there even after you've unscrewed it all the way. Most of the time, when you flip it upside down, it will come out, and if it doesn't, we can push it. So we're going to take these two, and we're going to come back. Once I got these two screws out, I'm going to come back. This is a little small screw for the battery box area. There's one over on that side. There's one over on this side in the rear. Now on the front side, there's another battery box screw there, put in my tub. If you're worried about remembering which screws go where, a great thing to do, you can go to the grocery store and just grab some zip top bags, and you know, you can put the screws in, you know, these 4 screws you could put in a small zip top bag, just write on it with a Sharpie, battery box screws, throw them in the tub, and you're set to go. So we've got that one, all 4 are out. Now I need to take these out. And again, with these used locomotives, these aren't my favorite to purchase and dip. For instance, you know, the Santa Fe engine, this is actually my least favorite engine to buy. But you know, it was, I put the lowest bid possible in on it, and I won it. But the reason's pretty simple. You know, there's a lot more I have to do on this engine than I would on, say, another one. I just had a Rio Grande engine. The motor block frames were black, and so, you know, that's just one less thing I had to paint on it. These, I'm gonna have to, you know, take the motor blocks out, mask off the bearing covers, and prime them, paint them, you know, and that's just one extra step that, not necessary. The next thing we're gonna do, I like to take these coupler pockets off, just to get them out of the way, because when it's in the dip and we're scrubbing with the brush, you know, I don't want the brush to hit it and knock it off. With that being said, you know, I've had engines where these tabs are missing, and the pedestal was missing, and I had a spare pedestal, and I actually used some, I'll show you a product maybe later called Instamorph. You pelletize, you put it in hot water, and it becomes a, you know, really soft plastic, and I pushed it around and formed it, and then basically made my own giant plastic washer, and then, you know, drilled it, screwed it, and down, and that thing is nice and strong. So with that being said, down here there's 4 screws under the motor block. Down here there's only 2 because of the cab. And then there is also there's also another 2 screws. They're really close together here. I can't even get I can't get the the straws down in there. So in order to get to those 2, what we're going to do is we're going to spread the motor block, and we're going to spread the side frames, and then rotate. Once I can just rotate, and then as you can see, there's the screw hole right there. Some people like to take the motor blocks out, you know, do something like you still got, and I don't want to undo these, so we're going to rotate this around. Now it seems as if someone has already removed these, and so I don't feel a screw in there, and I'm looking down in the light and I don't see a screw. So, you know, that one is MIA. So what we will do is slide this motor block back in here, and we'll slide these 2. One of the things we'll do before we reassemble it, I'll show you where to lubricate, where to check for whatnot, lubrication and whatnot. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to rotate it over, and we're going to take the shell off, and that'll be the next.